when I think of you interviewing Gavin Newsom?
He brought up blacks and Hispanics. 50% of them in California don't have access to a checking account. What's that mean, no access? You know what I mean? Like, they would go, Hobby Lobby denies access to reproductive, health to their, and they don't provide the pill. That's not denied access.
Right.
I would tell people all the time, I have 20 people who work for me. I don't deny them access to lunch. I just don't buy them a sandwich. They get their own sandwich. I don't slap it out of their hands. It's denied access.
Joining me today is Adam Carolla, author. So how many books total?
I have, technically 7 books, but I don't really count the first one. That was just a book me and Dr. Drew wrote a long time ago.
I mean, I wrote one just because everybody said I oughta, but I found it, what's the word? Laborious. Or is it soul deadening? Or is it futile?
Well, I mean, it depends, because you can look at it from an interesting perspective. Like, let's say one of my books was an autobiography of was myself. And so,
That's
that's
so many autobiographies.
Yeah. I would never write a book about myself unless someone paid me to write a book about myself.
Right.
But when they do, then you have a book about yourself. And you would never do it before. But I would never write any of my books if someone didn't pay me. So they come to you. And, they probably should have done this when I was in high school. They just go, we'll give you 1/4 of the money up front for the book report. And I'd go, well, I want all the money up front. And they'd go, no. If we give you all the money up front, Mr. Carolla, we're never going to get a book report.
Right.
And we want a book report.
Right.
So I'll tell you what, Mr. D-, we'll give you 1/4 of the money up front to write that report on Levi Strauss. And then once you hand it in, we'll give you another draw, but we're not giving you all of it until you graduate and until it gets proofread. And what it essentially does is they force guys who may not be good at writing books to write a book by incentivizing them. And it's kind of how the human mind works. And it's also how humans are wired. And
well, did they give you an advance? Was there any of that?
Yeah, they go, we'll give you a $350,000 advance. And you go, that sounds pretty good. And then you get a check for $71,000. And you go, what happened to my big fat advance? And they go, well, that's just part. Imagine giving comedians. Imagine like Artie Lang. We got a $1 million advance for you, and you're getting it all up front.
Right.
Do you think Artie Lang is going to give you a book?
Right.
You will never see that book. You will see him in court years later when you try to wrestle some of your money back that's been spent, by the way.
Was the first one autobiographical?
No, the first one was in 50 Years We'll All Be Chicks, which was just sort of a take on society and life. And then the second one was not Taco Bell material, and that was biographical.
That's awesome. The publisher asked me to write a memoir, which I just thought was indecent, because you shouldn't do that until you're very old, like really kind of done, it seems, because there's just so much opportunity to be so wrong.
Ariana Grande is probably working on her 3rd autobiography right now. Like there's some people write them at 19, you know. But, I mean, it kind of depends. By the time I got to my mid-50s, I feel like I'd had so many different lives at that point that somebody could get some use out of hearing about starting here and then going there and then ending up here.
Sure.
There'd be more life to live, for sure.
Was it like publishers love a look into the world or a world that most people don't know? I know in my TV life, they became besotted with the idea of, okay, we're going into the Amish world, or we're going into the Alaskan Bush people world, or we're going into this world, and that's the hook. That's the whole thing. We're going to show you a world that you didn't know, which is very different than an autobiography. But you slap the two together, and maybe you learn something about comedy and Adam at the same time, or construction, or whatever it is you're going to riff on. But for me, I was stuck. I took like 30 short stories about famous people that I had written as mysteries and interrupted them with like 2 pages of things that happened to me growing up. So it was like half autobiography, half biography. I thought it was terribly clever, but as it turns out, it confused a lot of people.
That's got a little Paul Harvey to it.
He called it the rest of the story. I called mine the way I heard it.
Yes.
And Chuck, you remember we got a FedEx here.
Oh yeah.
God, I hadn't written the book yet, but I was doing a show and a column called The Way I Heard It, and it was a FedEx from Paul Harvey
Certified
Jr.
mail.
Certified mail from Paul Harvey Jr.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
This can't be good. This can't be good because I'm literally talking about his dad and the influence he had on me and how I'm shamelessly taking his idea. He said, my old man is looking down and giving you 2 thumbs up, and I'm giving you this check for your foundation because I love it.
Wow.
And I felt like such an ass because I was like, I just expected the absolute worst.
I'm the same way. If anyone says, can we talk after work? I go, oh, God, what is this? He knows I'm banging his wife. He knows it. He knows it. It's only 3 guys in the office, so it's not everybody. But I have a kind of a wiring where someone goes, oh, so-and-so was talking about you. I go, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. But why not? Like, why wouldn't it be good or a nice thing? It's such a weird, I guess we're always trapped in our sort of 8-year-old mind or something. Somebody's writing a long, detailed expose on me. And first thing, I don't even know how to describe it. He works for a major newspaper. I can't remember the name. When he writes these big, long exposés on like Norm Macdonald and guys like that in the past, a lot of like luminary type. So my first impulse is, why are you talking to me? What are you talking to me for? Why would you talk to me? And he's like, well, you're interesting because you do this and you do that, but you're not really this and you're not really that. And he goes, well, who could I talk to about you that was sort of interesting? Like, who do you know? And I said, well, I'm kind of friends with Kevin Costner, but I don't know. I don't want to bother him. Like I felt that way about every person, Jimmy Kimmel, Alec Baldwin. I said, these are all guys I know, and they're interesting guys, and they like me, but I don't want to hassle them, man. And they're all so happy to do it and waxed on and very, very gracious. But my default setting is like, why are you hassling these guys?
Well, do you feel that way? Like when you get when somebody puts the long arm on you, maybe it's a foreword for a book or even just a blurb or something, is your first impression, God, homework?
Yeah, I mean, I tried to stave you guys off for as long as I could. But
I mean, you really did. It's been,
I did not.
Been like 5 years.
I
came
I'm
on your show
fan.
probably 5 years ago.
I'm a big fan. I love to do people's stuff. I interview people for essentially a living. I don't always want to talk to everybody. I'm not interested in every person I interview. And I love being interviewed, and I love the format, and I've always been like a radio guy and a broadcast guy. And so anybody's podcast or anybody, can put the arm on me, I'm always happy.
Are you a better host? Are you a better host or a better guest?
I think I'm a better guest, and that the guest is sort of the freestyle.
Well, let's see.
And the other part's the compulsory. Yeah. Although when you interview enough people, you get pretty good at it. But
Sure.
Hey, you want to help close America's skills gap? Here's what you do. You volunteer with Skills USA or start a chapter in a local school yourself. This is America's most consequential youth-based organization, in my opinion. They've got 450,000 members, give or take. They're trying to get to 1 million. I'm doing what I can to help them because, honestly, nobody's done a better job of training the next generation of skilled workers than Skills USA. I go to their competition every year. Very big deal. I've seen dozens of kids get hired right off the floor by Fortune 500 companies, the competition floor. It's amazing to watch. And this May 6th, they're doing something really cool. They're spearheading another National Signing Day. You know how athletes, they make a big deal over them when they commit to a particular team? Well, that's what Skills USA does for kids entering the trade. They They celebrate the trade school that they choose. They celebrate the vocation that they enter. So many good things to say about these guys. Unfortunately, I'm running out of breath very quickly. So do me a favor and go to skillsusa.org. Check out National Signing Day. See how easy it is to volunteer. Help us close America's skills gap. No pressure. It's only a matter of national security. All right, thank you.
When you're interviewing, you're kind of there to interview and not necessarily be the life of the party. You know?
When did you feel like you were good at it? And like the difference between coming in with like questions or the comfort and freedom just to have a conversation. And I don't mean with a comedian either, because you guys don't count as a cohort because you just live in a different sort of zip code for that. But I mean, like the real business. There's a scene in a movie called The Big Kahuna. It's Danny DeVito's best work, right? It's that whole character riff.
I remember the movie.
They're salesmen and they're like at a convention, and he says, the last time you talked to somebody, like really had a conversation, ask him about his kids, not come in with a pitch or an agenda or an idea, because once you do that, then you put your hand. That's what he says. He says you put your hands on it and you guide it, and then it's not a thing. That really struck me at the time, because that is our business. And, you get 6 minutes on the news, or you get 10 minutes, you're doing a hit with O'Reilly once upon a time. You can't really have a conversation. You have a moment. How do you think about all of that in terms of just being understood?
There's so many different formats, and I feel like you have to be a little bit of a decathlete these days. You don't have to be a world champion in long distance running or the javelin or the shot put or the long jump or whatever, but you should be competent in all those. And if you're competent in all of them, they may add up to a gold medal. I would do Dancing with the Stars, and they'd go, there's no swearing. This is prime time. This is network prime time. And then you would do terrestrial radio, and there was some, you could say, this guy's a GD a-hole. Everything was sort of abbreviated with the letters.
Right.
Like I know people who swear a lot, and I go, you shouldn't swear so much. And they go, why the f not? And I go, because then when you get in front of people and you don't want to swear, you end up swearing. And they go, I can handle my, and at some point they're like in front of the judge. And they go, this motherfucker's going 80 miles an hour, Your Honor. And I'm like, you can't stop yourself from doing that, right? So when you do terrestrial radio, you'll find yourself on the weekends going, these GD a-holes with their effing, and people are like, just
going,
say, you can say the whole word, and they're like, no, I can't, I got to have one mode. But it's like, you can do a podcast, you can get dirty, you can go do network TV, you can keep it clean, and you can interview someone seriously and have a serious conversation. You can talk to a comedian, but you need to have like different modalities. Yeah. And I kind of learned it early with people and partners, because I've had a number of partners in my career. I was partnered with Jimmy Kimmel. I was partnered with Dr. Drew. I was partnered with Skip Bedell when we were doing our home improvement Catch a Contractor show. Skip and Drew and Jimmy are all wildly different. And when you partner with Jimmy is the alpha. He's going to throw it to commercial. He's going to welcome back from commercial. And so I would sort of step aside a little and go, yeah, go ahead. Throw it to commercial. Take it back. We get paid the same. Talk more than me. Fine. Then when I get partnered with Drew, I'm now the host. And I'm throwing to commercial and bring it back from break and interviewing the guest or whatever. And Drew's become the sidekick. And when I was working with Skip didn't have any on-camera real experience. So I was kind of setting up and sometimes even literally just moving him away because he was getting his back in front of the camera. The camera guy couldn't see him and stuff like that. But I realized you can't just have one mode. You have to have, I'll be alpha, I'll be beta, I'll be teacher, I'll be student, you know? And if you can kind of learn who people are and kind of understand who they are, then it's much easier. You can't have like two alphas interview each other. It just becomes kind of cluster FAs, I would say.
Well, it's such a different world to this. I mean, I'll call it the host paradigm, for lack of a better host, interview, narrator, raconteur, whatever, than an actor, certainly, than a comedian. You're talking about modalities within a vertical, but when you really get into the double and the triple threats, right, and the EGOTs and the feeling, you do all of these different things. Like, back to the book thing for a second, the reason I wanted to riff on that, it's hard because once you write the thing down, it's there forever. It's on the shelf and it's between the covers, and there's no excuse, man. Whatever's between the covers must be exactly what you want it to say. But the minute you're done, there's a fire in the Palisades, and now you give a damn about something else entirely. And now there's, whatever's going on in your life, right? And so the book, it's like, it's like the snapshot of this moment, but it never goes away. It just sits on the shelf forever, and people read it, but it's not who I am anymore. It's not who you are anymore. That's my favorite part about this, like what you do and what you did in podcasting initially. It was so immediate, for better or worse. You did it. And then you come back the next day and do it again. It's the opposite of writing a book, really.
Yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, if you go and look at an autobiography, you go, well, that was me 0 to this age. And it doesn't include the Palisades and the Malibu fires because it was there. But it's a historical account of at least what I was doing from that year to that year.
Sure.
And then you're right, it's locked off. The thing there's stuff that's interesting about podcasting is if you ever listen to one of your own that's like 15 years old, you can hear them go, I had to come back from this place, and then I drove that way, and then my kids were 3 at the time, and you're hearing a kind of, it's a Dear Diary. Now, if you're doing Paul Harvey's show, then it really isn't. But if you're doing a free-flowing conversational podcast, then yeah, you would be talking about COVID or the Malibu fires or how you were affected. I had to flee during the Malibu fires, for instance. And so I would be saying, I had to get up at 2 a.m. and take off and went to Burbank. And if I heard it or my kids heard it 20 years from now, they'd go, that's what happened that day.
Or they might say, flee, Dad? Really? You used the word flee. Like you couldn't leave, you couldn't escape, you couldn't vacate, you couldn't run. You fled.
I evacuated. Yeah, there was a fire about a week before that where I didn't want to go, and then at some point could see the flames. I think it was like 2 a.m. It was the middle of the night.
Well, in a weird way, I may have seen you, sort of. I was here. I landed that day.
Oh, you were here.
I landed that day. I was filming a thing down south, not far, on the other side of Venice, and driving up. I mean, like alarms were going off, and you could see smoke, but people were still shopping. It was the strangest thing. Mm-hmm. And then I went up on the roof here as the sun was going down.
Uh-huh.
Jeez, dude, I'll never forget that, man. I will never forget how orange and horrible and apocalyptic it was.
Yeah.
And then coming down in the over there at the Huntley, up in that restaurant, which looks dead in that direction, standing next to a woman who was watching her house burn, who turned and told me that her dog was in it, and they wouldn't let her in. I mean, obviously, it's so much bigger than a dog, but it was such a little moment. And I thought about all my friends who live there, and I'm like, tomorrow's going to be a crazy day. And I mean, has your life even been remotely similar since then as the old days?
Yeah, I'm pretty resilient. My place did not burn down. Everything in front of it, and most of the stuff to the right and behind it and stuff, everything kind of around it burnt down. And I think people sometimes use a little hyperbole, like my whole neighborhood burnt down, I was the only one to survive. But It's pretty close to that. Every single structure in front of me along the ocean is gone, and about 60% of the stuff on the hill I'm on is gone. It's mostly gone. It'd probably be maybe out of 50 structures, 10 survived, let's say, out of 50 or 60 structures. I happen to be one of them. So that was good, but you couldn't go back for 6 months or what have you. So I was just kind of renting houses and sort of out and about and sleeping on people's guest houses and that kind of stuff. It was a pretty big inconvenience, but I realized I grew up on a service porch on like a cot mattress, and then later moved into a garage, and I with no heat, no air and stuff, and had like 1-bedroom apartments with 3 roommates and slept on futons and stuff. I was pretty used to camping out. I mean, it'd been a while.
But your camping in those days wasn't the result of a calamity. It was, right, more or less. In fact, I couch surfed for a couple of years, and I remember it like almost romantically. It was kind of fun.
Yeah, it's fun, when you're young and you have energy and there's people.
Sure. Is that from our roof, Chuck?
Yeah.
Wow, it's a picture from the roof. That is really dramatic.
Dude, and that wasn't even, I mean, it got worse. Now, obviously, the darker it gets, the more apocalyptic.
Yeah, sure. So my place is just sort of past that wall of flame. It was sort of miraculous that it didn't burn down, but like I said, I'm kind of philosophical and I can handle stuff, and I was ready to roll with whatever it was.
On a micro level, I get it, but I try and stay in my lane. I don't want to make undue trouble, but I've lived in this state for I don't know 20 some years. Our friend Elaine Colati was here about 6 months ago, and we were just texting. It looks like she's going to be running for governor, and I've made it a point to stay out of overt politics, but this feels different to me. Like the fate of the state, it just feels so consequential right now, not just for the state, but I mean, I think a lot of the country's looking here and taking their cue from our elected officials and try and weigh and measure all of that. To the extent that I have any influence, I got the little platform here. I find myself wanting to talk about this stuff. And I know, you've been blogging constantly, Elaine, you're really paying attention to it. So I guess if there's a question in here, it's like, to what extent are you doing this to change the course of the state's trajectory?
Well, yeah, I've been here my whole life, and I've seen where it's heading, and it's not going in a good direction. And I would say frequently, several years ago, when are we going to change direction and chart a new course? And then people would say the number one answer, which is always sort of sad, is, well, we haven't bottomed out yet. We got to bottom out. And I said, why do we have to bottom out? Why can't we just see we're heading to the bottom and
not do that?
Change course? I go, well, you got to bottom out. I said, this is like me saying, it's like if you had a teenage son and you'd walked in his room and you found heroin syringes, and then he'd got a couple of DUIs and been arrested a few times, and passed out.
Let's wait for the overdose.
Yeah, let's wait till his flatlines.
Yeah.
And then we'll get him some help. Mm-hmm. And I'd be like, no, a good parent would see what's going on, and before the kid's heart stops, get him into rehab. That's what we should be doing. And so we're like sort of spiraling into deep addiction and dark waters, and people are saying, wait till we flatline. And I'm like, or we could just go into rehab. We should change things now. Now, the fire may have been the bottoming out. I felt interested in sort of cataloging all the destruction. It was so visually compelling to me to live in that neighborhood when everything was just flattened all around me, and that you could go down the coast and drive for a mile and just see nothing but devastation. And it was sort of, I guess it's like being a war correspondent or something. Like there's a part of it that's very sad, but there's another part that's very visually compelling.
Yeah.
To just see, what was a $25 million mansion at the sea, and now there's like just one piece of rebar sticking out of the ground, and there's a crow sitting on it.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of looking at it and you're going, this is so visually insane. And so I thought, well, I should start sort of capturing it and then also kind of discussing what it would be like to rebuild and the permitting process and things of that nature, because I realized that I was pretty intimately familiar with that, being a contractor for so many years in this city and sort of having to deal with the city and plan check and bureaucracy and all of that's coming. And I was very aware of it in a way that most people who were either comedians or commentators or had a vlog or a podcast or something, I didn't know anyone who had an intimate understanding of building and codes and construction. So I was like, I think I should be the guy who talks and knows how to talk, but also understands what these guys are dealing with in terms of a construction, engineering, permitting, and that sort of thing. I think I can take them both. It was kind of interesting. I fled to Burbank and then checked into a hotel at literally like 4 a.m. The following day, got up to speculation of whether my home was there or not. Nobody knew. It was a lot of footage of everything in front of my house. I could see the news crews, were on the street, and I could see everything in front of me was gone. So
What'd you take with you?
I really just took like socks and underwear. Like I didn't really grab any keepsakes or anything. But to be fair, most of my stuff worth keeping is at my warehouse anyway. This was just sort of beach housey stuff, I woke up the next day to rumors that my place was gone. And I was doing the math because the fire was started up on the hill and it ended at the ocean. And my house was on the hill and everything at the ocean was gone.
Yeah.
So I did a math, which is everything in between that and the ocean's got to be gone. And I was in between. But literally the restaurant and the buildings, everything just below where I live are all gone. So I was like, I guess it's gone, but I can't verify it. But we had a podcast to do, and the winds were so powerful that they toppled over a electrical pole, a telephone pole, and the power was out where my studio was. And so now I'm like, well, the power's out, everything's a mess, it's helter-skelter, and do I really need to do a podcast like every single day? Like, can we just run a best of?
Right.
I talked to Seth MacFarlane for over an hour. Just run that,
Right.
And I started thinking about it. I go, yeah, but I think people are going to want to hear what, you're in the middle of all this. And they're going to want a little checkup on what's going on. I just, in my hotel room, just kind of moved the table, moved the chair, and set the thing, and put the mic on the table, and shut the drapes, and somebody with an iPhone kind of thing. We just kind of, and I said, you know what? It's only going to be 10 minutes. I'm just going to check in, let them know I'm okay, and here's what's going on, and blah blah. And of course, it went an hour of me complaining, but it was that morning after the fire where I just sort of explain to everyone there's not going to be permits. You think they're going to talk about fast tracking stuff and the city's going to snap in action. None of this is going to happen. There's going to grind everyone to a nub. They're not in the business of handing out permits or fast tracking engineering, plan check. I've dealt with this. It's a bureaucracy. They're not going to change. And you think they would under these emergency conditions. They have no intention of doing it, and it's never going to happen. And you people who love these people formally are going to learn to hate these people when it's time for you to pull a permit.
You're talking about people who voted for those particular officials.
I'm saying in general that those areas of this part of the city where we're at now, Malibu and Palisades, they like those types. They're progressive, blue-leaning type in general. I would say this is, not a lot of them do anything for deer hunting season or do a lot of bass fishing or wear their Oakley blade sunglasses on top of their trucker hats. There's not a lot of Ram dualies parked in the parking lot. So it's an electric car, vote blue kind of go Gavin kind of crowd. I said, you guys are going to be in for a real rude awakening because you're going to find out what this city does and how it does not function or perform. And you're going to find out how sort of arrogant and cruel they are, because they're not going to be in any hurry to help you, and they're not even going to pretend like they're here to help you. And I don't even know if they don't want you to rebuild as far as I'm concerned. So good luck. This is what's going to happen. Look forward to this. And, that was 13 and a half months ago, and now everyone's wandering around going, where are the permits? How come no one has a permit? It's like, I told you where they were. You're not getting them.
Jeff Childers, who writes that column, Coughing and COVID. Today's column was called I Told You So. And, he's coming from a point of view as a lawyer who fought mask mandates and a lot of other adjacent things 5 years ago, and now the evidence demands a verdict.
Right.
And it's clear. I shared your podcast that day. I thought it was brilliant. I mean, not brilliant. I thought it was smart. I thought it was really smart to do it because I think the initial impulse on a lot of people would have been exactly that. Seth MacFarlane's funny. It's a great interview. Let's just put it up. I'm dealing with stuff. Back to the book thing. This is not the guy you are in the books you wrote before. Now you have an audience and they trust you, man. You've got an enormous amount of permission to be as candid as you want and to share as much as you want. I think generally the country is super hungry for that. The fact that you hunkered down and did that on a couple of iPhones was just interesting. It reminded me, this is a bit of a stretch, but remember when Bourdain was caught in Beirut? I don't know, it's probably 10 years ago now. You didn't have to do a show. You just needed to turn the camera on and be a reliable narrator or a witness to whatever that was. And that's what I meant by permission. You grew up in this state. You live in that zip code. You know how to communicate. You know how to be a host. You know how to be a guest. And you've got a front row seat to something. But what was interesting for me when I shared that, the comments, I still remember a lot of people going, well, he's being very pessimistic. He's like being very much of a Cassandra, a prognosticator. We'll just see, because it sure seems like all the brass are saying, oh, no, all the bureaucracy's gone, all the roadblocks are coming down. They were talking about issuing thousands of permits in months. And dude, you were right. They haven't. What have they done?
Well, they've done a little bit in the Palisades, a little bit, and pretty much zero in Malibu along the coast, because I think the Coastal Commission had to get involved with that. Plus, it's kind of academic. Like, what people don't really fully understand is I could issue you a permit for these places that live, these lots that were burned down along PCH on the water side, on the ocean side of Pacific Coast Highway. And a picture tells 1,000 words. So there's some stuff out there, Chuck, that is me chronicling a job site. There's one job site on PCH. I don't know, Adam Carolla PCH Foundation work or something like that. I've literally got the drone up in the air and filming all this stuff. So even if you had a permit to build your home back on PCH, the engineering for that home that you're going to rebuild is 35 caissons that are 36-inch in diameter going 5 stories into the ground. It is caissons, which are drilled with a caisson rig and a giant auger bit. It's essentially just drilling down into the earth. but not drilling down 15 feet, drilling down 5 stories, and not 7 of them, like 35 of them.
Caissons alone deserve some sort of rhetorical detour. I mean, just so people understand, you know, I mean.
That's earlier stuff where it's destroyed. Now, that's just the caissons. Then there's the seawalls. Then there's the slab. The engineer, architect, he told me there'd be 3,000 yards of concrete in this foundation. 3,000 cubic yards of concrete. A full-size concrete truck holds 10 yards. So one truck is 10 yards. Each caisson is about 20 yards. So each caisson is 2 full trucks pumped, and there's 30 some odd caissons. And that's just for stuff poking up.
Why do you need a caisson in this case?
You don't.
Those were the things that, like, they used to build bridges with these
they
things.
build bridges with them. They hold up freeway overpasses. I mean, they go down into the ground.
And you pressurize it underwater, and that's what lets you work in an area and pour concrete, 50 feet underwater or more.
Yes.
Might this be it?
No, this is me explaining that the Equinox gym across the street's been closed for 9 months, but the Taco Bell has been open the entire time.
What is it with you and Taco Bell, man?
I tried to get a job there once, and they denied me.
What? That was the second book, not Taco Bell material.
That was it. Yeah.
And here, I mean, look, the irony of that, and now today, doing stand-ups on Instagram, on an iPhone.
I know.
Chronicling one of the greatest,
Maybe
disasters.
Do a picture. Do a photo.
Hey, there you go. Click images. There you go.
Hit images.
Like right now, to be Chuck has to be one of the most annoying things.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
You've been on Rogan and you've seen Jamie do it with like 2 fingers.
I can't even
There's
type.
1,000 of these. Hold on a second.
As they're pouring 3,000 yards of concrete, I'm sitting there talking to the architect, and I go, what about the old foundation? Because you had to pull out a bunch of stuff. And he said, oh, those were all just piles, just telephone poles, pounded down in the ground.
Yeah.
That's like you build piers and everything on just a telephone pole that got whacked in the ground. I go, wait a minute, he goes, there's no concrete. I said, none? He goes, no, it was all wood. Everything was wood. I said, it lasted for 70 years, and then the fire got it, but the foundation never gave way. And he goes, no, everything was wood. That's the way they built it in 1957. And it was going fine until the fire got him. And I said, okay, how much is this foundation? And he said, about $2.5 million. I said, 2.5 before you bring in the first 2x4 to build. He said, yes, you're going to be into this about 2.5 with just foundation. And then you can start building your home here after you're into that 2.5. I said, who's got the money for this? Who can do this? And by the way, the time, I mean, they got full caisson rigs, like a 5-story piece of engineering rolling, on tank tracks and everything, steam shovels, backhoes. Like it is an insane proposition. The amount they're putting into that. Each caisson has a rebar cage that's essentially looks like a long slinky made out of number 6 rebar, which is like 3/4 inch thick rebar, has to be hung up on a giant crane 5 stories long and lowered all the way down into each one, times like 36. All right, Chuck, there's no way you don't have a picture of that foundation.
I think he drew one.
He's pretty
talented with charcoal.
I could go up the coast and get a quick shot and come back.
This is not working out well at all. Oh shit.
Well, let me ask you this, Chuck. Do you know what a foundation looks like?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like,
Well,
if you were to see
that'll
one,
help.
you
If
would
you
be
were
like,
to-
I think we've.
I got a picture of some caissons right here. There you go. But I don't think that's what you're looking for.
Those are the oldie ones.
Taylor,
Now, well, maybe I'll just pull my phone out.
I mean, at this point, honestly,
This point,
why are you doing this?
it's nearby where I live. I am very fascinated with all forms of building, so I will come poking around if you're building and I'm walking past whatever it is you're building. I'll just come poking around. Like, I just like it. I like seeing how it's built. It is kind of my Reese's peanut butter cup. It's taken comedy and commentary and sarcasm and humor mixed in with building and kind of put together as my peanut butter cup. Like, it's the two things I kind of like, assembled, essentially.
This is 1 month ago.
All right, let's.
Oh, now we're getting somewhere.
Let's see what this is. I don't think it's this one.
For the love of all that's holy.
All right, go forward. You can scrub it for.
Can I?
No, I don't think it's this one. One more before this one, probably. Let's see.
What's okay?
1 year later, they're trying to see if that one's something.
1 year later one?
Yeah.
I thought I hit that one already.
Oh, maybe you had 9 months later, I think.
Oh, this is, I mean, how many vlogs have you done?
I've done a lot. I've done a lot of them.
Is this it? This is the 1 year later.
Yeah, you can just let it run.
Well, now it's really no longer about your story.
Oh, maybe.
It's just about whether or not Chuck can find this.
Well, it
thing.
is more about Chuck at this point.
At this point, yeah.
All right, here's my point. My point is what used to take no money and little effort is now Herculean and involves a lot of engineering and a lot of permitting and stuff. There it is. You can stop it there for a second, Chuck.
Oh, Kenny?
Oh,
Kenny?
can you? Yeah.
There it is. Okay, good.
Yeah, that's the job site, and those are all the caissons that they're pouring. Okay. Those things go 5 stories into the ground. That's just for a single-family residence. That's not, it's not the Germans in Normandy. That's just a single-family home with seawalls filled to the top with rebar, with doweling into the rebar, with the seawall goes 20 feet down in the ground.
Explain why that is a thing. Nice job.
Good job, Chuck. You're back. They
Thanks,
have
man.
to build a seawall basically because they're going to put a septic system in there, and they're essentially building a 20-foot high, 14-inch thick concrete wall all the way around it so the septic system can't leak and go into the ocean. Oh, are you kidding? Should be the name of my next podcast. This is total and utter insanity, and it's what the city makes you do. And so my point is this is a metaphor for California. You want to know how come there's not enough low-cost housing? How come we don't have this? How come? Because you guys make it impossible to do because of regulation. We could rebuild a home the way it was built before, but this is total insanity.
So
and
what's
it's
the end game?
Safety thing we talk about all the time.
Sure, but what's the end game? What's in it for the county, making it impossible? I mean, that house, when it's done, is going to be tens of millions of dollars.
Yes.
Easily.
Yes.
And like to your earlier point, who's got the dough? How are you going to build back with those kinds of protocols?
The county simply adds things on and they never peel anything away. So if the regulation 20 years ago was number 4 rebar, now it's number 6 rebar, soon it'll be number 8 rebar, and all they know is how to keep ratcheting up the thing that they always hide under the umbrella of safety. It's always some sort of safety related thing. When I had houses from the 20s, 1923, maybe 1927, my first couple houses, and I'd be building some stuff, and you get the engineering, and I'd go, this is way over engineered, and they go, we're an earthquake country. I'd go, yeah, where do you think the house? Do you think the house was in Idaho in 71 when the big one hit, and in 94, thank you, when the Sylmar one hit? They're both here. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
There's nothing. They weren't engineered for anything. There's no caissons. There's no anything. It's just here it is. Here it's sat. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with engineering. There's nothing wrong with being safe. But building 1,000-fold as strong as you need to is like saying, everyone goes, sell a car, should have an airbag and a crumple zone. in front. Okay,
And a
good.
safety belt.
But it doesn't, and a belt. But it doesn't need a fire suppression system and a fuel cell and a roll cage.
Right, because the actuary...
But it would be safer.
It would be safe.
But it's not practical.
So the actuary, like I'm fascinated with that argument with the car thing, because I broke a few eggs.
Look at that.
Look at that's a beauty.
Oh, by the way, all those caissons that we're seeing now, and we're not seeing all of them. Some are underground, but they're all going 5 stories into the ground. That's for our house.
It's
That's
a
why I need to
bunker.
show you the picture, Chuck.
Okay, good work. Good work. We start every year knowing 35 to 38,000 people are going to die on the highway. Mm-hmm. We know it. Mm-hmm. And you can have your crumple zones, and you can have your double airbags, and your restraints, and you do it all. But that's doing all that gets you 35 to 40,000 fatalities.
Yes.
You want to knock it down to 20? Get the speed limit to 35. You want it down to 15? Mandatory helmets.
Right.
You want it down to 5,000? No left turns.
Right.
You want to get it down to 0?
Correct.
Wrap them.
Yeah.
Wrap them in rubber and not. I mean,
Like
so
a tugboat.
exactly right. So you start with the idea that you could absolutely eliminate automotive fatalities, but it's been weighed and measured, and we've decided 35 to 40,000 fatalities is something we can live with. We can live with it.
Right.
There is no corollary for this.
No, because this is 0 fatalities, because in this equation, the old car with no airbags and no crumple zones would have been this thing built on the telephone poles that were pile driven into the ground. But the pier, which is a half block down the street, is over 100 years old, and it sits on those telephone poles,
Yeah.
the same one. So this is your grandpa's old Oldsmobile with no fatalities ever, and still we're requiring the roll cage and the fire suppression system.
I'm just saying, like, all these additional things, like through the lens of a safety protocol, yeah, but this is through the environment. This is like saying we will spare no expense to keep any amount of septic sewage from potentially leaching.
Right.
So, can we live with a 1% chance? No, we can't. It has to be 0. And it doesn't matter what it costs.
Right. Well, another thing is the modern systems are so good that there is none of that leaching that goes on. Every time I talk to someone, they go, they say you can drink whatever's in the leach field. And then they pause. They go, but I don't.
But I don't.
Oh,
I
good.
wouldn't.
I was just about to offer you a cup of piss water, but okay. I get it. You don't do it. Listen, nothing that was built there before had a seawall. Previously, there's 0 seawall,
Right.
And everyone is on a septic system,
Right.
And by the way, the thing that I'll tell you what hurts the flora and the fauna in the ocean, it's a fire that burns everything in the ground, and then mudslides where everything that was up on the hill, including burnt out Priuses and foam mattresses and sofas and carpeting, all slides down the hill
Yeah,
into
that's
the
bad.
bay.
That's bad.
bad. Much
That's bad.
worse than a leach field.
But isn't it interesting that the degree to which we're willing to mitigate automotive fatalities allows for 35,000 deaths?
Yes.
But the degree to which we're determined to mitigate an environmental problem is 0. It's
Right.
and that's where we're out of whack. We have elevated the environment
Yes.
to so far above the value of a human life,
Yes.
but we're still having the conversation as if, well, let's not really talk about how that happened, but it's not much different than saving a dog from drowning instead of the 10-year-old kid. It's your dog, and you love the dog, and you don't know the 10-year-old kid, and so now there's a value judgment. Do you save your dog that you love, or do you save that kid?
There's another element here, which is, for in the car metaphor, you go, well, a roll cage and a fuel cell with a bladder and a fire suppression system and fire suit and everything. You know how much a Toyota Camry would cost with that? And then they go, you don't think the rich guy from Malibu can afford a Camry, even if it's $500,000? And it's like, yes, he can afford it. It doesn't mean you should do this.
No.
And by the way, once you take this mindset and bring it, we go, homeless for the housing. These are 400 square foot bachelor apartments, 950,000 per unit. It's like, how did we get to that price? We got to that price. How'd that place get to that price? Because you guys required so much more than what was practical or feasible. It can't be built, and there's no economic system that'll support it. And the people who build it, they move to Texas, and they just go, I don't want to deal with this.
Right.
So all this stuff under the name of safety is really grinding everything to a halt. And there is literally that one foundation you saw is the only construction going on in the entire PCH. That's it. There's no other. Just one. And it's for that reason. And you say, we want to fast track this. Again, even if you fast track it, if it takes 3,000 cubic yards and basically you're building a launch pad for for NASA,
Right.
which is essentially what they're going to end up building, because they have to do a 1-foot slab on top of all those caissons with grade beams, by the way, in between. I mean, there's a lot more to go. It's not practical. It's not feasible, and people aren't going to do it and know they're not going to rebuild. So, and they do this little wordplay thing, which is, we'll give you a permit to do something you can never do.
That's what I meant earlier about why California feels so consequential to me for the country. Because if that attitude that exists in, the community supervisory, what do you call it? Like the tyranny of the small government. Like all the headlines are about, DC, but the real action is here. How would we ever be able to convert our domestic manufacturing capability into a wartime footing with this kind of thought? How would we rise to any occasion that we've historically risen to if the most important thing is to keep the septic thing from leaching? And if we're okay forcing people to just squeeze through hoop after hoop after hoop after hoop after hoop.
Yeah, we've proven that we can't, because we had all of these mechanisms in place, and I was friends with Suzanne Summers and Alan Hamill, and they lived in Malibu on the ocean, and they loved it, and they had a home there for many, many years. And I don't know, maybe in 96 or somewhere, it burnt down, and then they went to rebuild, and they loved living in Malibu. By the way, it's another thing too. It's kind of cruel to have someone's home burn down and then really not let them rebuild. You know what I mean? It's not like I go, I'm going to open a brothel with a speakeasy on the roof, and they could go, okay, no, we're going to slow roll
Maybe
that
not
permit.
that.
But this is your family's home burnt to the ground because of their negligence, by the way. It burnt to the ground because of the government not managing the forestry and so on and so forth. They burnt, and then they want to rebuild it at their own expense, and they won't let them do it, which is cruel at the end of the day. So Alan Hamill and Suzanne Summers, who adore Malibu and who would come back from Palm Springs to stay at a hotel in Malibu every chance they got, went through about 6 years of trying to pull a permit. Coastal Commission just kept telling them to pound sand, and eventually they went, we're too old for this shit. Yeah. We can't spend our golden years arguing with the Coastal Commission, who won't let us rebuild and has a million hoops to jump through that no one could ever satisfy. So they move out, and there is no rebuild. You're talking about a wartime situation. How would we react? Would we? Well, this is a nice simulation. Everything burned to the ground. Trump came into town a week later, and he said, we need to hurry. This is unfair to these people. We need to fast track this thing. This was supposed to be a war simulation.
Yeah.
These are extraordinary circumstances. Many homes lost, many families displaced, and now, like in wartime, we're going to fast track this stuff, and we'll be building Liberty ships at the count of one every 40 hours if we can fast track this stuff and tell the unions to back off a little in wartime. Well, this is it. This is wartime, and I think we got our answer.
Well, that's why people said what you said earlier. And I'm guilty of it too. Sometimes things have to go splat.
Right.
But to your point, if that's not splat, what are you waiting for? Like, what other calamity could possibly? I mean, there's nothing left but war.
Right.
Truly. Maybe some of what's going on too on a national level is we're just not a terribly sympathetic part of the country. The millionaires lost their houses.
There's definitely an element of that.
Yeah. Altadena's a different story.
Agreed.
And then if you go the other extreme, what was that train derailment? Palestine.
Oh, right.
East Palestine.
Right.
And that's not on anybody's vacation brochure list, but we managed to ignore the hell out of them too.
Yes.
How squeaky does the wheel have to be?
Will we assign a lot of value? I mean, a good-looking person dies, it's a tragedy. Ugly person dies, it's just not as bad,
Famous person mom goes missing.
Geez, somebody's got to find her because I can't take any more news about that.
I don't even. I mean, are we even allowed to kind of not joke about it, but acknowledge the? I mean, what is it, like 3,200 kids have been found by ICE.
Mm-hmm.
Found that had previously been just lost in the in the country during the same period. I don't know anybody's name. I don't. Where's that kid? Where's the story? Where's the triumphant? We found another one.
We are weird in the priority department. Yes, no disrespect to Nancy Guthrie, but
none.
She was kidnapped, and I don't need an hourly update on it. I hope they find her, and I hope she's alive, and I hope for all the best. But it's not something I need to hear every day.
Don't you? I mean, maybe it's even worse than that. Maybe there's something that really deleterious for the human mind to constantly be told about a circumstance or a situation that you can't do anything to remedy.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's just a steady drip, 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 and that's just one story.
Yeah.
You think of all, people say, you got to take a break from the news because it's all bad. I don't think it's that. It's not that it's bad. It's that you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, it was funny. I was talking to Dr. Drew about this today, and I mentioned that I didn't have a take on Nancy Guthrie, and I didn't have an Epstein take, and I don't have takes on everything because there's stuff I just don't know about, and I'm not going to talk. I have takes on caissons and foundations, and Chuck not being able to retrieve them from the internet.
We all have a take on that.
But I do not have a take on Guthrie's mom being abducted because I have no insights.
Yeah.
I worry about people that feel compelled to have a take on everything all the time, because you can't be a Swiss Army knife all the time. Like you can't be everything all the time. And I'm perfectly happy to just go, I have no thoughts. I feel like it's sad. I hope they find her. Now I got to get back to talking about foundations.
Right, but see, that is a sane and rational approach for a true civilian. But you're not a true civilian. You've got you got the microphone, you got the cameras, you have an audience. Do you feel any kind of obligation?
I feel very obligated to talk about things I'm aware of, I know about, hearkening back to doing our makeshift studio hotel room fireside chat. I felt compelled and obligated. Living in Malibu, probably at the time thinking my place was burnt down, construction background, so on and so forth. Very compelled. Then there are other subjects like Epstein's list. I just don't know anything about it. I don't know anyone. I've listened to 30 different versions of it. I can't get a straight answer.
You're not on it?
I'm not on it. And as a part of me, it's like, I would have taken the flight at least. But the problem, I used to do this joke. I did it like 5 times and I felt bad. But I said, the problem with the pedophile accusation is like you see Tom Hanks' name's on the thing. And the problem with pedophilia is you go, oh, come on, Tom Hanks. He would never. Wait a minute. So like there's that thing. And I used to do this joke where I'd go, because like if you said to me, your stepdad, John, what about it? Could he murder someone? I'd go, absolutely not. John's a good guy. He's a gentle soul. And what about, could he be an arsonist? No. What about going to an island with a bunch of models? Which island? That was kind of the joke, because it's sort of true. Like, you don't know what anybody is capable. And every time it's someone who seems unlikely, you go, oh, come on. And then you go, wait a minute.
Yeah, what island?
Right.
Be specific.
Right.
My favorite metaphor so far, you kind of glossed over it, but we're talking about Reese's peanut butter cups. Yesterday, there was a big article, kind of a scandal. The grandson of Reese bought a bag and ate one and just threw the whole thing in the trash.
Really?
And said, this cannot stand, right?
Uh-huh.
So never mind all the ingredients in the cup. The two that are conspicuously absent are peanut butter and chocolate. There's not a trace of any of it.
Really?
And so some lawyer at Reese's, a very artful rejoinder, just said, look, our iconic cups haven't changed at all. Well, no, your iconic ones haven't. But the ones you sell now in the store have. And so this is going to be like, you'll read about it soon. It's like it's a thing. But you were comparing the fundamentals, the foundational fundamentals, chocolate, peanut butter. It's not that complicated. Unless this new thing, you call it the same thing. It kind of looks like a foundation, but it's not made. There's no wood. There's no concrete. There's no rebar. It's all something else, and it's unpronounceable. It's part of the general fraud that's been perpetrated upon us. The ingredients aren't what we thought they were, and we can't even pronounce the stuff that is in it. And it all just feels like it's just going off the rails. Your vlog to me, just feels like an attempt to, put the truth on the label, for God's sakes.
Yeah, I'll tell you the number one abused word in all ingredients is honey. If you look at honey cough syrup or like honey Vicks or honey shampoo, or go see if you can find honey anywhere.
No, no.
The label's got a giant bee on it that's dipped in honey.
Right.
You turn that thing around. I don't care what it is. If it says honey something on it, there is no
honey bunches of oats.
There's no honey. There's no honey in anything that advertises is the first word of honey. Which it's the weirdest is like for cough medicine. It's like honey, Vicks, whatever, and you look at it and you go, there's zero honey in here.
Here's what we're desperate for. I think we just want to hear the truth. Yeah, the best cough drop I ever saw. I forget the name of it, but I bet. God, I hesitate to say, Chuck. But if you Google it,
I got the peanut butter thing up.
Their slogan was, "Tastes terrible, works great."
Yeah. Smuckers.
With a name like that, it has to be good.
Right.
It was Mason Adams.
You should do VO work
one of these days. But that to me is that's the key. It can't all be great. Part of it has to be crap. And then if you give them the truth about the crap, then you can tell them the good news. You just need permission.
I have found, I mean, the thing that I think attracts me to going onto the job sites, and now I am touring some of the rebuild sites up in the hills of the Palisades, inland, in other words, not touched by the Coastal Commission. And there's houses that are sort of half framed. They're getting close to finish. And I'm touring the houses, and none of it lies. It's just what it is. There's no theory about it. There's no, I have a dream about a house that gets framed. Buckley's award-winning campaign. Right.
It tastes awful, and it works.
Right. Which
I'll buy that. I'll believe it.
I think everyone feels that way. For some reason, it scares Madison Avenue. It sort of scares society. Like it scares, the people that are selling you stuff. But I happen to I happen to like that. And they used to do, like, VW Bug used to have campaigns talking about they looked ugly, but they got great gas mileage or whatever. Like, first off, self-deprecation is a great quality. It's kind of bygone. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of miss.
I was never really good at it.
It was great. It's just a great thing that we should get back to.
Yeah.
I always like that guy or that woman who makes a joke at their own expense.
Can't go too far, because then it's as artificial as, being void of it totally. But yeah,
We had
a little bit of it.
I would do jokes in the vlog, which people are sort of, I don't know. I had mixed feelings about it because people's houses were burnt to the ground, and I was kind of joking around. But it was always fun. So I found a guy early, and you won't have to look for it, Chuck. But it was everything on PCH, and this guy got jobs. His company cleaning the lots.
Yeah.
And he'd go in there and clean these lots out. He's doing the stuff Trump was saying we need to do now. His company would plant an American flag in front of the lot. I said to the guy, just go along with me on this. And I got my cameraman, and I said, the American flag, Old Glory, this is amazing. Everything burnt, but yet this remains. The true testament of a country. And these colors won't run. Amazing. Statistically, how could you even think about it? Everything is gone, but yet Old Glory still waves. And then he comes up and he goes, we put it there this morning. And I go, and he nailed the line, by the way, which was funny.
Do you feel like an obligation to be funny when you're? I mean, just in general.
No, I like to have a meaningful conversation. At some point when I'm discussing something, I'll use some sort of metaphor or something, and someone will laugh. But I'm not really trying for that. I'm just trying to paint a sort of peanut butter cup picture.
Yeah.
There are times when you're in certain situations where you need to be funny because that's sort of
people
what
bought a
asking.
ticket.
Right. Totally. 100%. You come watch me do stand-up. I do not get preachy.
Nope.
I don't talk about the
no
government.
lectures,
I
no
don't do any
sermons.
of that. I just want to be funny because that's why you bought a ticket, and so I'm going to oblige. And then there's other situations that are like more conversational, more interesting. And I think you should be able to toggle back and forth, between those personas. And I also feel like if you are a little more serious, a little more interesting, a little more thought-provoking, it'll set up the humor for when it's time. And it's also more about a batting average than it is about trips to the plate. I used to tell people all the time, they used to hear me on Howard Stern. They go, oh, I love you on Stern. So funny. How do you do that? And I'd go, I don't say anything if I don't have anything funny to say. I'll just hang back and let the conversation go. And then if I have something funny, I'll punch it in and then hang back again. But it's the people that feel like they have to get to the plate and swing all the time. They're going to get some hits, but they're going to have a bad batting average. And I'm like, just sit back and wait for your pitch.
Who do you admire? Like, who's doing that right now in the zeitgeist?
I think there's some crazy guys out there. Shane Gillis is real strong. Like he's funny. Not everybody's funny. He's funny. Tim Dillon's funny. I'm not a real connoisseur of comedy because I'm sort of a mechanically minded person. And if you say, well, what do you look at online? It's like car auctions, or some guys rebuilt a Datsun Z car and I want to check it out. Something like times I've been to a comedy club where I'm not performing, almost zero. Times I've walked to that job site in Malibu for free, 2,000.
Yeah.
So that's where my interests are. That's literally what I'm doing. I find myself much more interested in monkeying around with building and cars and mechanical stuff than I do in the sort of arts world.
Yeah, but there's a metaphor there too. I mean, the mechanics of a joke, the construction of a tight 5 minutes. You know,
I believe it has to live somewhere in some reality, depending on the style of your humor. But my humor is sort of people have to kind of go, yeah, okay, yeah, I know what that is, or I've heard of that, or I believe that. For me, it's very important that we live in oh yeah, I know what he's talking about. All right, how come, blah, blah, blah. And that's to me what sort of building is. It's kind of a reality and a practicality and a kind of a gravity. When I used to build, I would talk to it would always be the women who were remodeling the houses. The guys I never talked to the guys. It would always be the women. They would say, like, I want to get rid of this whole wall and just make one big open expanse, one big great room, you know? Yeah. And I'd go, well, if it's a load-bearing wall, then we're going to have to pick up the load, you know? And I'd go put my head, and I'd go, the joists are running the wrong direction. It's a load-bearing wall. So then I'd go, all right, so we can get rid of the wall, but we got to put a big header to pick up the joist, the load. And then the woman would go, I don't want a header. I don't want to look at a header. I want it to be smooth and flat and all the way down. Then I'd go, well, we could put a header up in the ceiling. We've got to put a post down at some point because it's got to be a smaller header. No, I don't want the post. And I'd go, well, we could put a piece of steel up there and that'll span it, but that's really expensive. I don't want to pay for that. I'd go, all right, what you want is a magic wand so you can affect gravity.
Yeah.
I'm giving you these options and you got to pick one, and that's that. And you could bring in 10,000 other guys and they'll tell you exactly the same thing. So this is where we're at, so we got to figure this out. And that's just kind of my approach to life. Now, I know you don't want to look at a header, and I don't want to look at a header, and you don't want to post, and I don't want to post, but that's it. That we don't have a choice.
But if you are a general contractor, metaphorically, and you are, and if you're, not a subject matter expert, but, you're in the decathlon and you want to be competent at all of these things, I mean, all of that really tracks. You've done a lot of stand-up, you've written your books, podcast thing, and all of it. When I think of you interviewing Gavin Newsom, now, that's going to hold up. And that wasn't comedy. Whatever that was, it suddenly revealed something. And, I wonder what it's like now for people who don't know what I'm talking about. Just give me a real quick synopsis of what happened and when, and then talk about maybe what you think now when you see him, in Europe and elsewhere doing his thing.
It was several years ago I interviewed him, maybe 13 years ago now. I didn't have any strong opinions about him one way or the other before he came in. I wasn't planning on being adversarial, but I had some thoughts and corrections that I was looking to impress upon him. And I thought he'd be sort of amenable to some of those thoughts, and there were kind of basic thoughts, which was I would see people in Los Angeles who got into minor fender benders consistently standing in the third lane of the freeway, in the middle of the freeway, in the middle of the traffic, exchanging information, taking pictures, talking outside the car, and creating a giant traffic jam, right? And I would say they're going to get killed. Number one. Number two, the car's fine. It's amazing what a car can do. I've driven the Toyota Celebrity Grand Prix 5 times. I've seen cars completed on 3 wheels. Every time there's a high-speed chase, at some point the guy's running and there's just sparks coming out. Like you could drag a car off the. I'm going to pull over to the shoulder. You're going to get killed, and you're stopping the freeway. And I started saying, why don't they just put that up on the freeway sign? Like if you have a little fender bender, it's the law, pull it over. People started sending me pictures from like Montana signs by the side of the freeway said, if it steers, it clears. I mean, pull it over. Yeah. They had a campaign. Well, here we are in Los Angeles, the worst traffic in the world, and nobody knows. They think it's a crime scene or whatever. So put it up on the sign. And I think he's going to say to me, Oh, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
You know what? You're right. Or better yet, like, yeah, I know. I've been talking about this, and I want to get it done, and I want to put it, whatever. He just looked at me and sort of went, what? I said, in Montana, they have signs that say, oh, get out of here. He thought I was kidding. And then so I said to him, no, it's a big problem, and it's just you could put it on the freeway sign and start a campaign. He goes, I saw a sign I liked. I saw a sign that said, you're not in traffic, you are traffic. And I was like, what's that have to do?
mean?
What's that mean? I don't know what it means, but I want to alleviate traffic. He was laughing the whole time. And then later on, he brought up blacks and Hispanics. 50% of them in California don't have access to a checking account. Now, first things first, when people start butchering the language with the access, like everyone, what do you mean? What's that mean, no access? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'd say? It's like
no roads.
They would go, Hobby Lobby denies access to birth control or reproductive, health to their. And they don't provide the pill. That's not denied access.
Right.
I would tell people all the time, I have 20 people work for me. I don't deny them access to lunch. I just don't buy them a sandwich. They get their own sandwich. I don't slap it out of their hands. It's denied access. He started telling me that 50%, which is an insane number of blacks and Hispanics, don't have access to a checking account. So I said, what's wrong with them? And he was like, what? And I was like, well, why aren't they doing it? Why wouldn't they get a checking account? It's like, what? Oh, I don't know. And he just kept bringing up the problem, but never bringing up a fix for the problem. Mm-hmm. And he went in circles and circles and circles for a lot of subjects, a lot of time, homelessness and everything. And I realized he had no answers, but he also didn't intend on any answers. And he didn't find it to be problematic that he had no answers to the problems that he brought up. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And it didn't bother him at all. He didn't even seem to really recognize it or hear what he was saying. And I kept saying to him, what is wrong? And by the way, he didn't go 50% of blacks and Hispanics in California don't have access to checking accounts, so I have an amendment to a bill that will give us mobile checking account vans where we can pull into these cities like the Bloodmobile and get these people, these underprivileged people, sign up. He had nothing. He just kept stating the problem. And then I realized he doesn't know what he sounds like, and he's a sociopath. Like, he doesn't really understand anything. It's all a kind of a fake laugh and hair gel and a deep leg cross, which is a thing they cross their legs super violently hard.
Extraordinary, yeah.
Extraordinary for a man to do, and unfazed and unbothered by zero answers and zero remedies. With everything is kind of a laugh it off. Oh, you're making a joke. And I'm like, I'm serious. People get killed standing in the middle of the freeway. They should move their cars. Yeah. That's all he does. He doesn't say, I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. That's a good idea. We should just put it up on the sign and make people aware of it. They can pull over. It doesn't say anything. I said to him 13 years ago, I said, the homeless are junkies who are schizophrenic. They have mental issues, and they're addicted to drugs. And that's who's on the sidewalk. He said, how about the true face of homelessness? Oh, he said, the true picture of homelessness. I said, who's that? So it's a mother of two, full-time job, minimum wage, just got divorced, got put out with her kids. I said, that's nobody. That's nobody. By the way, you want to not solve a problem? Then don't mislabel a problem or don't diagnose a problem.
Reese's peanut butter cups. There's no chocolate or peanut butter in his point.
Right. And that's what it is. He labels something else and then moves on. And in the last 13 years, the homeless problem's gotten a lot worse because he diagnosed it as a mom with a full-time job who just got divorced.
Right.
That's how he diagnosed it.
So, I mean, just staying on that issue for a minute. It was 13 years ago. How many billions have been spent in California?
24.
$24 billion. Has it gotten better or worse?
It's gotten worse. But why wouldn't it? Because you've not identified.
The true face of homelessness.
Well, if you walked into a house and someone decided it was termite infested, and then the guy said, I think it's because it's haunted, and then left, well, that's not really going to solve the termite problem, is it? You've misdiagnosed what's going on. You
No.
got the termite part right.
But you might get a show on the Travel Channel.
Tent that house. Yeah.
Tent it. Well, you look, I think of the high-speed rail. I think of the fires. I think of homelessness. And then I read the profile in, what was it, Vogue the other day, which is just amazing. And I just watched yesterday in real time. I forget who he was in front of, but it was a large assemblage of black people. And he said, I have like a 980 on my SAT, but I can't read either.
Yeah.
You know, there's some form of dyslexia. And he's getting lit up for it because I think he said, I'm just like you.
Yeah, 960, I think.
960, right.
But
I was rounding up.
Yeah.
But
generous.
I mean, so look, he survived the exchange with you 13 years ago. He's survived all of these things.
He doesn't really fully understand it. And I can tell you, sometimes you have to sort of get in the ring with somebody to really feel their power or lack thereof. You know what I mean? You can't just watch them on TV
Right.
in their boxing bouts. You know, you have to really kind of experience it. And I've sat in a room for an hour and a half with him, listening to him try to answer questions, and he doesn't track. So there's something missing. You know, with a lot of people, when they go, oh, what do you think of Adam Schiff? I go, oh, that liar. That guy's a lawyer, bullshit artist. And you can say, well, what do you think about AOC? And I go, she's a narcissist with a 10-cent head. But you go, what do you think about Gavin Newsom? I go, something's wrong with him. That's plain and simple. I'm telling you reliably, something is wrong with him. And when you see him sort of do what he does, that's what you're seeing. But you're only seeing it on TV. You're not smelling his musk, his nutty musk, when you're in studio with him.
Chuck, Google Nutty Musk. I'm curious to see what.
Just make it nut musk.
I just want to see what comes up. I mean, is there like a scenario where you'd even consider running for some kind of elected office?
No, but I'm flattered that people tell me that.
You're on
all
lists,
the time.
dude. You're on lists.
I guess. I again, it sounds so far away from my version of myself that lives in my head. You know, like Adam Carolla for governor sounds insane to me. But on the other hand, writing a book is pretty far away
Not Taco
from
Bell
the,
material.
the version
blogging
that was in my
live
head.
from your. I mean, look, it's all insane.
I totally get that it's all insane, but this one seems totally insane. But I would be very good at it because I would approach it like we're on the job site, with just here's what we're going to do and here's what we're not going to do and here's what works. There's a kind of pragmatism that is missing from what we're talking about, and it can be found on the farms and in the barns and on the job sites, a kind of a brass tacks pragmatism that is missing. The bluer the state gets, the more that enzyme is missing. You know, it needs some ranchers and some hunters and some folks that put things together.
Did you see Fareed Zakaria's thing?
Yes, I did.
On Mondami.
Yes, I did.
And New York in general. What'd you think?
And blue states in general.
Well, blue cities.
Oh, blue cities, yes. Sorry.
But what he did, he kind of left the door open for a comparison between blue and red cities. But can you think of a red city?
That's a good point. Yeah.
I don't
There's
think,
red states, but not so much red cities.
Right. And I think, the point of managing a population is it's kind of, the line to me is interesting between, well, are you managing a city or are you managing?
Well, I can say to some degree there are, surprisingly, a couple of Orange County cities that in California that could be considered red in the way they sort of conduct themselves, and Long Beach, didn't want to give in to all the COVID mandates and shut the beach and stuff like that. There's some little bastions, and you can tell, because if I go to the Irvine Improv, which I've performed at quite a few times over the years, when I'm driving out of LA and I'm on the 5 freeway and I'm looking at Damnation Alley with hobos wandering in circles and graffiti everywhere and garbage everywhere, and at some point the road opens up and the pavement smooths out and the garbage and the homeless go away and the graffiti goes away, and I look around and I go, oh, I guess we're in Orange County now. Like, we've literally, there's a palpable difference. And it when you're driving, it hits you pretty hard, because it just, all of a sudden everything has changed. There are certain cities that are at least run reddish, even if they're not completely red, but
$127 billion.
For a budget, yeah, more than Florida's. State of Florida.
More than Thailand.
Right.
More than Greece.
Right. Yeah, it's insane. But the thing that's insane about it is there's a bravado to it, which it's really nervy, and it's a bravado, because what it's saying is you go, look, you guys spend more money than the country of Greece and the state of Florida. Okay. And you're going to go up to the podium and say you want more money and people need to pay their fair share, and we're going to tax this group and that group. Is there any part of you that thinks about reeling it in a little bit in the spending department? And then why is that off the table? Like, why is that a non-starter? Because you can either tax people more or you can spend less, and you'll end up in the same place. It's the same difference.
But throwing 5% of that population left.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a lot of people. And you can kind of hide that kind of big, crazy number with big, crazy numbers of people. But the number of people who are leaving is on the rise. So that just means your budget's higher, and now fewer people have to pay more. And it's just, I mean, watching Fareed talk about this I thought it was really instructive, because he didn't enjoy talking about it. But at least he told us the truth in the ingredients. Like, he was talking about real chocolate and real peanut butter, I thought,
Yeah, it was refreshing, his candor.
Yeah.
And I think that's his brother's name, by the way. Candor Zakaria. So I liked it. And yeah, when people on that side of the aisle are speaking that way, that should be a sobering moment to those guys. And also, there should be some element of sort of humility that they don't seem to have, which is, you are spending a grotesque amount of money. This is an impossible scenario, and you're going to have to try to re-engineer what you're doing here. And there never seems to be that come to Jesus moment. It's just lots of posturing about needing more money.
I just think, the photo that Chuck finally found, and good work, Chuck. That's the ultimate. I mean, your point was you can't go backwards. If
they won't go backwards.
If you're going to put in the Barbicons or you're going to put in the Caissons, and you put in 5, you're never going to put in 4. It's only going to be 6. Everything's got to go bigger.
You really, in order to really fully appreciate this, for me, I did it for a living for several years, a decade or more, but then I got into show business and I didn't do it for a long time. And then at some point, some years later, I came back to it because I was doing some projects on my own, and I was pulling permits. And, I was talking to the engineer, and I was like, oh, we got to build a shear wall here. And I'd go, all right, yeah, okay, 2x4s, 4x4s, and number 4. And they go, no, 6x6, 2x6, 2. And I'd go, what? No, that's not how you build a shear wall. I know what the specs are. I've done it. Half-inch plat. No, 3/4-inch plat. I know the nailing schedule is 6 on center. No, it's 3 on center. I'd go, what happened? What happens? I laid off for 7 years, and the codes kept moving. You step away, and then you reintroduce yourself, and it's completely insanely over. And I'm walking around going, "Oh, you got to be kidding me! There's no way they need this. You know, they need that. Well, they have the pads on each side, but they need a bond beam to tie them together. They don't need a bond beam. We got the pads on the side. Like, you know, engineers are like, that's the new code. That's the new code. And so, no, they never repeal anything. They just keep adding things on. And there is a cottage industry that springs forward from all that gets added on. And then those people have lobbyists. So, you know, we now have more bureaucracy in the teachers' unions than we have teachers, right? I mean, there's more office workers than there are coaches and teachers and, you know, boots on the ground. That number just keeps growing and growing and growing because it becomes a leviathan. It becomes its own sort of machine. And then they get political clout. And then you try to strip them and make them lean and mean and whatever. And then they go, remember who got you into office? And then the political will goes away.
This is why people say it's got to go splat.
Yep.
And I don't know what it means, but the country ought to be paying attention to California.
I agree.
I'm glad you are, man. I'm glad I know you too. You were very kind years ago, invited me on back in the Dirty Jobs days, said some nice things about me. You know, in fact, you were like, you know, I really admire your career. Like, I love the fact that you're out there, like, doing a show that felt. I got a call one time from Patrick Warburton.
Warburton.
It's hard to say, but yeah, he was like, you know, I've been watching Dirty Jobs, and
he's a good dude, by the way.
He sure seems like it.
Oh, he is.
And he had an idea. He was like, what if you and I were just to go through, like, Napa Valley, like they did on Sideways, only just as us, just, you know, drinking wine and hanging out. It's like, is that a show? I'm like, yeah, I guess it could be. But I'm thinking, you know, you're putty. You're killing it on Seinfeld. You're the Tick. You're like all these things. And he's looking at Dirty Jobs and finding something that he envied, you know, something that's different. You know, I guess we all do that, you know. Like, I envy your career a lot. I'm happy with mine. But it's always interesting to see how people turn out after 30 years.
Yeah.
Of doing what they do.
Well, thanks. But listen, I see you and I go, oh, man, that's what I should be doing.
Yeah. No,
because I love the work. And I love – oh, and one thing I do want to say to you specifically on that subject, you know, I know that all the vocational training and all that sort of bring back shop class near and dear to your heart. I say all the time, you go up and down PCH, as I do, it is littered with people working. Now it's all road work. They're all doing road work. They're not building any houses, but it's all road crews. And then I go up the hill and I walk on the job sites, and it's all these crews. I see crews everywhere. I do not see one black face. I only see Hispanics. And I've said for a million years, can somebody go down to the inner city and find these kids that are on a bad path, that are heading for gangs or heading for worse, and get a hold of them and go, there's good money to be made, there's dignity, there's pride, you're 2 years away from it, you're 17, you've been suspended 5 times, you're not going to be a rapper, we don't need to expose you to music, we don't need to take you to a museum, you need a trade, man. And there's plenty of work to be done. You know the pitch better than anybody. But could somebody go down there and get to these people and tell them? Because I don't see one of them working in this entire vista. And I pass hundreds of guys every single day, and not one person from the inner city.
Well, the answer is yeah, but nobody who ever won an election. In Baltimore, there's an organization you would love called Project Jumpstart. Mm-hmm. And these guys, this is the construction industry, who basically threw up their hands and said, we can't find apprentices. We're really in a world of hurt. So they set up this pre-apprenticeship program through the inner city. So some guys coming out of jail, some guys about to go in, all at risk, and and they went in there. They took 2 retired shop teachers and put willing participants through this pre-apprenticeship program. And it had consequences. Like, you could screw it up. Like, they would give you a stipend, but if you're late, they'll take money. Shirts untucked, cell phone goes off, all that, there are consequences. Bottom line, it was not involved at the time anyway with any kind of local taxes, and it was vibrant. And I mean, dude, these stories, guys who, electricians making 140 grand a year who were out of cards. Right. I mean, the exact kid you're talking about. Yeah, LA could do that. They could absolutely do it, but I just don't. I wouldn't know what elected official to turn to. It's going to take private industry.
I've never heard it come out of anyone's mouth, but someone should have said, Altadena's burned to the ground, Palisades burned to the ground, Malibu's burned to the ground. I don't need a bunch of people coming in from Oklahoma to pick up the pieces. We have tons of strong young people. It doesn't take that long to figure out how to pull some Romex through some studs or whatever. It's not rocket science. It's experience and it's hands-on, but it's just, you can do it in a year, and you can get on a job site. And by the way, when you're on a job site 8-10 hours a day every day, you learn real fast. Right. And 3 years from now, these guys will be 20, 21, and they'll be making good money, and they'll have dignity and pride and sense of purpose and all that. Somebody just go, let's do this. And I've never heard a word from anybody ever.
Hey, look, man. Maybe we ought to do it.
All right. I've been about it for a long time.
Hey, I'm glad you stopped by. Sorry it led into this giant life-changing promise made in front of 3 cameras. But yeah, let's do it. Carolla and Rowe.
Game. Yeah. Oh, good.
Really appreciate you coming by, man.
Thanks, Mike. Always appreciate talking to
man.
you.
I owe you one. Actually, I think this makes it even, but it doesn't matter. I'm at your disposal.
If you like what you heard,
and even if you don't, won't you please, pretty please, subscribe. Well, I hate to beg and I hate to plead, but please, pretty freaking please, please.